For City of Fraser ZBA meeting to order. If you will all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Cindy, roll call, please.
Board Member Hurley.
Present.
Board Member Clemente.
Present.
Chair Farina.
Present.
Board Member Goodell.
Present.
Board Member Menendez.
Present.
That's all of us. So if you want to volunteer to be on the board. Anyway, all right. Approval of the agenda. Is there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the following amendment: to remove item 10 this evening, unfinished business of the board, discussion of driveway expansion.
Okay, I agree, because we're down 2 members, and when those members come on board, I'd like to be able to do that. And under new business, I'd like to,
Wait, we need a second.
okay.
I second it.
Well, I want to make another modification. I'd like under B, under 9B, to add discussion of master plan. Okay. And is there a second? Joe, did you?
Yes, I second it. Mm-hmm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Approval of minutes for December the 7th?
I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of December 7th, and with the following amendment, to add the state tribute to the minutes.
Yes, I don't know. It was all here. Thank you, Cindy, for doing that.
Appreciate it, thank you.
That was beautiful. It was a nice meeting. Mark really appreciated it. He was really moved by it. So, thank you for doing that, Ms. Menendez.
Pleasure.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Against? Approved. Okay. Petitioners and members of the audience. The Zoning Board of Appeals, as herein created, is a body of limited powers where there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships in the way of carrying out the strict letter of the Fraser Code. The board shall have the power in passing upon appeals to vary or modify any of the provisions of the code relating to the construction, structural changes in the equipment, or alteration of buildings or structures, so that the spirit of the code shall be observed, public safety secured, and substantial justice done. No variance in the provisions or the requirements of the code shall be authorized by the board unless the board finds in evidence that all of the following facts and conditions exist. A, that there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions that apply to the property in question as to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zoning district. B, that such variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right, similar to that possessed by other properties in the same district and in the same vicinity. The possibility of increased financial return shall not, of itself, be deemed sufficient to warrant a variance. That the authorization of such a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property and will not materially impair the intent and the purpose of the Fraser Code or the public interest. D, that the condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of the property for which the variance is sought is not of so general or recurrent in nature, I have a glare and I can't read it, in nature as to make it reasonably practicable the formulation of general regulations for such condition or situation. Having said that, we have a public hearing, and there's nobody here from the public to be heard. I'm going to open the public hearing.
That's more so for the applicant that's in the audience. Because it was postponed last time, we left the public hearing spot blank. So you can open and close the public hearing after you've heard from the applicant like you would normally.
Okay. I'm sorry. Would you like to come up?
Don't we want to hear from McKenna first?
Okay, I'm situated. Lauren, would you like to lead us through it, please?
All right, thank you, Chair Farina. So this variance is a little bit tricky to understand, and then when we re-noticed it, we tried to make clearer language in the hearing notice, and that's what's on the screen. So it's to obtain a variance from zoning ordinance standards to increase the maximum freestanding sign area within the prohibited vertical dimensions of 4 feet and 10 feet. So section 32-85 specifies that freestanding signs shall be at least 10 feet at their lowest point above the sidewalk or less than 4 feet above the highest point. So I did create this visual just to kind of visualize what's existing and what's proposed. Additionally, what's being counted as signs is in the yellow boxes as sign area. And so the increase in signage in that kind of no-go zone between 4 feet and 10 feet is why a variance is needed. Additionally, it should be noted that the sign is non-conforming in terms of its setback from the road right-of-way, but since it is not, the proposed new sign is not enlarging that non-conformity, it does not need a variance. Regarding the standards of approval, with consideration of that there is exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions, staff has not found any exceptional or extraordinary conditions, and the applicant has not thus far provided any. Regarding the necessity for preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right like that possessed by other properties in the same vicinity, the possibility of increased financial return, shall not of itself be deemed enough to warrant this variance. The applicant has verbally indicated that a sign of that height is needed to advertise the business that are hidden from the front by the front building. However, staff does not find evidence that a height conforming sign would not adequately advertise that building. Additionally, the applicant has indicated that a compliant sign is cost prohibitive. Regarding C, that the authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property and will not materially impair the intent and purpose of the chapter of this public interest. Staff has not received any comments from adjacent properties. The sign height may impair vehicle traffic sight lines. However, it should be noted that the proposed sign was designed to try and minimize visibility limitations, that the existing sign structure is a similar height. Regarding D, the conditions or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of the property for which the variance is sought is not so general or recurrent of nature that is to create a general rule for such condition or situation. Again, staff has not found any evidence that the request is not general or recurrent in nature. Additionally, the applicant has not provided any evidence that the request is not general or recurrent in nature. Regarding E, the modification of setback, location, site, building requirement is sponsored by the Planning Commission or specific proposal that benefits the city by providing better design or efficient use of the site, results in more creative development. Planning Commission did not sponsor this, and then F is also not relevant as it regards phasing.
Okay.
So if the applicant would like to respond in more detail to any of the items that we didn't quite get sufficient evidence on, we can let them to do so.
Okay. Ms. Menendez has a question
Lauren,
for
I
you.
have a question for you. This being non-conforming, as I understand it, they can't make any modifications to it That's why it comes before us. If, hypothetically, if they were, it's non-conforming, if they were to remake everything within within the existing signage that they have now, could they not do it without a variance?
They-
Or is it because of the dimensions are changing that are non-conforming?
So it's only when the nonconformity is altered in a way that enlarges it is when it needs a variance.
Okay,
So because again, since the square footage of the sign area is enlarging.
correct. So if he stayed within his original square footage there, somehow remade that within the same square footage, didn't go greater, then he wouldn't need a variance.
That is correct. I will note, as you can see in the current sign, that how we understand the ordinance to define sign area would not include a lot of the frame, though. So it's a lot of the frame, it's a lot of extra frame.
You're talking from that pole?
The light blue section in the existing.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Now, are you considering this a pole sign or a monument sign?
It's a freestanding sign, which
Okay. Mr. Burley?
Got a question for you. As far as we know, those are the only signs that have ever been there? Because it looks like above it, there's a spot, above the sharp one, there was a spot for an extra.
it's the building.
If you're going to speak, you have to come up to the microphone.
Well, I was just look for the
So
administration, if we know of any other thing. We'll get to that.
the building clerk, and I think it's in the early 2000s, indicated a sign permit. She found a sign permit that had more tenant signs, although the records on that weren't super clear on approval and everything. So it's hard to say.
Did they say
But-
how many more signs there were there?
I wouldn't be
Talking to-
comfortable.
Talking to her.
I wouldn't be comfortable answering that off the top of my head. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
And they were just plans, so I've not seen any actual signs or any pictures from any code enforcement or anything. It was just the plans on record.
Hey, any other questions for Lauren? Okay. Applicant, do you have anything to add?
Brian Duque, 36886 Harper Avenue, Clinton Township, with Sinorama. I did some renderings myself, and thanks, Roseanne, because this is probably the first variance I've been confused about myself. We know the existing is non-conforming. We did our own renderings with it to show the sign with the existing dimensions, and we did that. Our whole thought process was exactly that. Retrofit it within its existing boundaries, keep it within the same square footage, and actually reduce it because we're getting rid of all this out in front of it. The only difference between our drawing and the original sign is we're covering the poles. Even if I paint them, they're not particularly attractive.
No, they're not.
So we figured if we hit them, it'd be a far more attractive looking sign.
Do you plan on doing anything with those timbers around there?
The timbers, these are stone.
It's brick, yeah.
These are brick.
Okay. All right. Now, you had an additional sign there before, is that what you just said, ma'am? Could you identify yourself and talk into the mic, please?
My name is Margaret Buzignani. I'm the owner of Monticello Company, LLC. And I have 3 buildings there, but only 2 tenants that wish to have signs.
Okay.
That sign, to me, is very unattractive, and I've been hoping to change it, and that's why I contacted Signorama. And I understand from Lauren that I had to get a variance. That's why I'm here.
Okay. Now, we have to figure out, variance goes with the land. Like, if you would sell property or tear down the buildings, there would still be a variance that would be applicable to that sign. So we have to meet certain criteria. So we're going to have to ask you some questions about the property, how it's used and that kind of thing. We went down and, I know Roseanne and I went down and visited the property and looked at it, and you're right, it's a bad-looking sign right now. But like I read in the opening statement, we have to have certain criteria that we have to meet within the law. Or that lady in the black over there throws a gavel at me. Just kidding. Anyway, Mr. Chimenti.
Is this sign going to be illuminated?
No.
Nothing?
No, the sign originally had illuminated cabinet on the bottom of it. You can see it on this side of the sign. The mailboxes are blocking it. So we actually reduced the square footage by putting a skirt that's gonna come up to here. And they have this portion up to be signage. We're not gonna, this here is just gonna get covered. And we're gonna put an address on it.
Make sure you're talking to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got a big voice. So the bottom portion where the originally was a lit sign cabinet, we're not utilizing that at all. We're just gonna cover it, again, hide the poles because there's nothing particularly attractive about them, and just use everything above it that was already existing. We're not looking to go any taller. Also, we're doing is squaring off the top and trying to keep some of the history there of the sign and keep it the same size, except actually smaller because we're covering up the bottom and we're eliminating all that metal that's out in front of it.
Now, the signs itself, the square footage is what, Lauren?
The square footage within the part that needs a variance is approximately 38.
The blue part, correct, you're referring to?
Oh, for the existing, or?
On the current one? You're
Sorry,
saying-
for the current one, it's approximately 26, and that's including the dark blue and the white hanging off. Yeah.
Right, but not the yellow portion, not the sharp coming off the side?
No, it's both. It's considering both.
Oh, you're doing both, okay.
And what about the portion above it where the boards are just painted?
That is not being counted as sign area.
Which right now, it's a signable area.
Okay. Now, you said you have 3 buildings and 2 tenants?
3 tenants, but one tenant does not want signage. One tenant does not want signage at all.
Ms. Menendez.
But that doesn't mean if you change tenants at some point, a new tenant might want it, and it would be available.
That's correct.
Okay, for Lauren. So you're saying that it's the same dimensions, old to new, just cleaned up, and that's not where we're getting here.
No. I'm saying that the current sign dimensions are less than what they're asking because I'm not, or my interpretation of the ordinance isn't that light blue area counts as sign area. The ordinance has language about it being, signs not being the same as from like the background of them, and I think that it could be, the language could be cleaned up, but as I understand it now, as it's written, that wouldn't count.
So you're counting what encases the lettering.
Yes, yeah, so again, the areas in yellow that I kind of outlined.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what you're considering.
Yep.
Mr. Burley.
So the sign on the right, let me get this straight. The area in yellow is the 38 square feet.
Approximately, yeah, roughly.
Okay, so what signage are they available for having 3 units? For
The
3?
maximum?
Yes.
I believe one moment. Yeah, that does sound right. I believe the maximum's 54. And they are within that overall.
So if you were to add that blue top, that would be 50, under 54?
That'd be 38.
No, she's
the
saying in
yellow's
the yellow is 38.
Yeah, no, all in all, it is about 50, it's under 54.
So the square footage is correct. They're
Yeah,
under.
square footage, yeah, the square footage is compliant.
Okay.
It's the height.
Was that?
It's the height that we're discussing.
The height within that 4 and 10 feet, yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to add a little bit of clarification, just because I think that the sign area is important in the analysis, but not too important. It's more so what we're looking at, like Ms. Sayre said in her introduction, is between the 4 and the 10. So 0 to 40, to put it another way, because I had to think about this myself, is 0 to 48 inches is okay, right? The ordinance says you can have a sign 0 to 48 inches. The ordinance also says you can have a sign from 120 inches and above. Here, there is that middle ground here in between that 48 and 120, which is what the board is looking at. Does that make a little bit more sense for anyone?
You lost me, though.
It's that middle area between the 4 feet and the 10 feet is where the variance, that's where,
Where you can't put a sign.
correct. So because they're putting signage in between that 4 feet and 10-foot area, that's what the variance is for.
Well, if you would consider this a monument sign, you would put a sign closer than 10 feet. To me, it looks like a monument sign. Doesn't it?
It does.
Well, the monuments are only 4 feet high, correct?
I would have to look at that.
I don't think our current ordinance specify, I think it's called just a freestanding sign.
Okay.
I don't think we specifically have a monument, even though that is the sign type.
Okay. How long have these buildings been there?
Oops.
I'm not quite sure. But we bought them, I think, in the late 70s. I'm quite sure. My husband's passed away.
So they've been there 50 years.
Probably.
Now, are you moving the mailboxes then someplace else?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, the reason we lifted the skirt up, made it taller, is so there wasn't signage behind them. That's how we're actually shrinking the signage, because currently the sign goes behind the mailbox. But we're choosing just to put a pole cover over it and make it non-signable area, make it more attractive.
But my question again is, are the mailboxes themselves going to be moved?
There was no plan to move them at this time.
'Cause they're ugly out there.
Actually, the mailboxes can't be, most of them can be removed, with the exception of 3. I only need 3. And my son is a builder, and he said he could take them down.
Mr. Burley?
But I would have to check with the post office to see what their regulations are.
Well, you don't receive mail in the rest of them, do you?
But they've been there.
This is a question for Lauren. Let's say contractor's supply left, and she needs to get a new tenant in there. And the new tenant comes in and says, I want a new sign. How big could they put it? What I'm saying is, do they have to, if originally there was 3 signs, right? How can they manipulate those signs for a new tenant?
I would assume they would probably stay within the red, white, and blue boxes.
Well, why couldn't they go up to 54 square feet if that's what they're able to have maximum?
So they, again, I have to double check exactly what it comes in at, because I think it's just under. Currently it's coming in at 53.24, so they have a little under a square foot to work with. So as long as that little bit was over the 10 feet or under the 4 feet, there wouldn't be any need for variance. But again, as Mr. Farina said, if this got approved, it would be, it would go with the land, the sign would stay with it, so. It doesn't.
No, what I'm saying is, I guess this one's, I guess if they're allowed 54 square feet,
Yep.
right, for 3 tenants, so why aren't they allowed 54 square feet on that sign, the original sign?
I believe that they are, they're just not, it's not being used that way, though.
So he could do something on the left side to make 54 square, I mean, because I'm assuming the reason want to put a new sign, well, at least on there, it says you want it to be more visible, correct?
I just want it to be more attractive.
Well, you could make it more attractive within the same
Well, it's very,
size.
Well,
Yes, without a variance.
I think.
You're exactly why
Well-
I don't understand why we're here.
I think the issue is I guess, again, the signable areas and the existing is what we see doesn't include the whole sign frame. And it's, again, it's going off of, it can only go off of what is currently existing since there aren't any records of having additional signage within that area. So that's why a variance is.
See, I guess I'm having a problem like you are. That whole thing on the left, the blue portion, the light blue above the blue sign is part of the sign. I mean, so.
Yeah, the whole sign right now is non-conforming, right? So why can't they just keep it as non-conforming? Even if, I mean, just because you change a name of a company should not change, either your square footage or, I mean, because I'm assuming originally that little piece up there above Sharp was actually a sign. I mean, that would make sense if you look at that sign. It was probably one sign with contractors on that piece of wood, and then the two on the right. I mean, that's what I would assume when looking at that sign, because it's boxed in for that.
I think this is, I guess, more so getting into a discussion of the definition of signable area. I'd have to pull up the zoning ordinance again, but I think that would be the difference in what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I can try to look that up.
Isn't this more about the difference? Is it increased?
You see, if you-
Is it increased from currently to now for that 4 to 10 foot area? But you're gonna have to count the base because it's defined from the sidewalk. So you gotta get to 4 feet somehow.
Yeah.
Are you having a good discussion? Do you want to share?
Sorry, I'm just kind of trying to think out loud here.
I have a question. If he removed that brown area with the address on it, let's say that was just a pole, raised it up 4 feet, would that matter, or does it need to be a full 10?
What?
It does, that,
Like the vintage sign, you know the vintage sign?
I can't say it.
It's just down the road, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to pull up a
It's just a
picture.
pole sign, right? It's like on a pole.
I refer to it
and-
like a pylon.
Yes, yeah.
Pylon.
So like there's a pole and then there's a rectangle on the
Big-
top
yeah.
essentially, right?
Yep. Yep. Let me see if I can find, because I know we took pictures when we were out there.
Do you know what the square footage is of the sign now,
The whole structure,
the whole structure?
we can calculate it pretty easily.
I think it's, oh, no. I thought it was in there.
Because I agree we don't want to enlarge a nonconformance. But it's pretty obvious that there is a nonconformance there.
Yeah, this is actually the drawing that we did. Because it was conforming, we made sure we kept it within the same footprint. We eliminated all of this extra signage on the front, and we raised the skirt, eliminated the signage on the bottom to make sure that we weren't adding to the sign.
Okay. Any other questions, anybody?
I just wanted to show her
Go ahead.
the one of the car wash, and
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know, what did we say that was about? A little bit under 4 feet up above, if they remove that? Laura, do you want to take a look at this? I don't know how I.
We were there, we snapped a couple pictures of other signs in the area.
See how they're up off the ground here?
They're actually probably pushing it into that non-conforming area.
You probably need to you both need to get by a mic before Ed runs
sorry.
out.
Yeah, I would say with that car wash sign, by pushing it up, they're pushing it into the area where it's non-conforming.
Non-conforming in vintage?
I'd have to take a look again.
That might be over 11, or over 10.
In the original Dale sign? Where they're, this is right next door to him.
Without measuring, this part with the phone number might be under that 10. Above it, looks like it might be above the 10, which would be acceptable.
Okay, thank you.
Well, is there anything else, any other questions anybody wants, anything else anybody wants to talk about?
Laura, did you find the language where the signage area?
Yeah, so sign area, and this is where
What number are you at? What
so this is in the definition section.
number?
I'm on my mobile, one sec.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries. It's all the way at the top.
Why do you push the button? You don't, let me do-
It's 32-3. And then all the way under S, sign area.
Okay, go ahead.
So the use of any word, numeral, figure, object, device, letter, symbol, insignia, illustration, design, trademark. Oh, sorry, I think I screenshotted it to try to come back sooner, and I think I screenshotted the actual sign definition, not area. One sec. Apologies.
Okay.
What page is it on?
It's here. It's under
All right. So
definitions, chapter 32.
sign area, the area within a continuous.
Page number
32. I don't know if there's, these don't have page numbers.
Mine does.
Go on until you get the definitions. Yeah, now go to
32
S.
dash 3.
Go all the way to S.
All right, sign area, the area within a continuous perimeter enclosing or making up a sign, together with any frame or other material or color forming an integral part of the display or used to differentiate such sign from the background against which it's placed, excluding the necessary supports or uprights on which the sign's placed, provided, however, any open sign contained within the outer limits of the display face of a sign or between any component, panel, strip, or figure of any kind composing of the display face shall be included in the computation of the area, whether such open space be enclosed or not by frame or border, where a sign consists solely of lettering or other sign elements mounted on the wall of a building without any distinguishing border, panel, or background, only the area of a tightly drawn imaginary triangle enclosing such letter or other sign element should be treated as a single sign for the purposes of area computation. And then it talks about, for double-faced signs, only one display face shall be measured, counted in computing sign area, or items from information where the sign faces are parallel, or where the interior angle formed by the face is 60 degrees or less. If the two faces of a double-faced sign Our unequal area of the sign should be taken as the area of the larger face.
Well, that seems to me that that blue part is part of it then.
Yeah.
With any frame.
Says other material or color forming an integral part of the display or used to differentiate such signs. So I would read that as that whole blue part is a sign.
I would too, because you have numerals up there, and I'm reading this here, it says, use of any word numeral. You know. So I would think that that should all be considered part of the non-conforming sign. Not just the part at the bottom.
I would say, I definitely understand where that, interpretation comes from. When I was reviewing and then reviewing with colleagues, I guess the part we were considering was because of the, talking about the continuous perimeter and that differentiates it from the background. So that is where that interpretation came from. But
No, I can understand that. Okay. Thank you. You happy now, ma'am?
I was just going to say, because the yellow, what's in yellow, that sharp to the right, is not continuous to the frame going around in the blue, he kind of omits that and kind of adds it back into the other side on this one, but that's still a continuous frame around it according to this, and he's removing that outside piece anyway with the new design. Okay.
Mr. Burley?
Got one question, though. If, for example, that is the whole sign, then there's going to be a little portion from above the 3, that little triangle, from the 10 feet to the, where the 3 comes across, that he couldn't put that new sign, because that would not be, right? Because he can go above 10 feet. So
Yep.
it's not an issue there. So if you go across that red line where the current sign, where the 10 feet is, and goes right above the 3, from that little portion to the end will be still an issue. Correct? For him to put that new
It's-
sign,
yeah,
if
I'm
we're
j-
saying,
You're making me do mental math. It might, because it's on area is the, I guess I would, if the interpretation is that the blue section counts as sign, I would probably say it would still be okay to have that, because they're getting rid of that white part that hangs over, which, again, at face value, looks larger than that lip triangle formed.
Correct.
okay.
Thank you. Okay. Is there a motion to be had?
Mr. Farina, we have to open the public hearing.
I'm sorry, thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there any public to be heard? Anyone wishing to be heard? Anyone? No one wishing to be heard. I'm going to bring it back up to the board. Mr. Burley?
I got a question. Why do you need a motion if that is, if he puts that sign, the proposed sign, in that spot, you shouldn't need a variance?
What is the height he's looking for?
No, it has nothing to do with it. It's in between the 4 and 10 foot, so it should not need a variance.
But it's the variance, though.
What was the?
Correct? Or not correct?
It's not, the height's not, no, the height's not the issue.
That's the-
I understand. No,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying is if that blue part Okay, on the left side is the current sign, correct? And we're saying that that is the current sign.
If that's,
including the-
if that's what the board is saying, if that's the interpretation of the ordinance,
That's what I'm asking, because that's kind of what I read.
I think, yeah, I think the issue is, I think we're differing in opinion, but, you know, at the end of the day, the zoning board does interpret the ordinance, so.
I mean, obviously, Ms. Sayre has looked at this application and done the calculations, so to speak. I don't personally know if what you're proposing, Mr. Burley, of flipping this in here and throwing it in there and whatever the dimensions are, I don't know if we have accurate dimensions of that particular scenario this evening to make a specific call to say that would be absolutely okay under the ordinance. I don't know that.
I guess if there's a difference in interpretation of sign area.
I mean, that's typically interpretations are a completely different situation where, you know, the city asks the board to interpret it, or an applicant asks you to interpret something. So I guess,
And she did the right thing.
I'm sorry?
Lauren did the right thing. She gave an interpretation based on what she had.
Correct.
Yeah. And so I think we ought to act on the variance and just go from there.
Okay.
Is that all right? Mm-hmm. Okay, is there a motion to be had? Anybody? Well, then I'll try. Okay, I would like to propose to approve the variance for Appeal 23-05 at 31471 Utica Road for a non-conforming sign to replace a dilapidated non-conforming sign, similar in nature. The reason behind it is that in that property, there are older buildings that are built behind each other and therefore do not have the ability to put out individual signs for their own use. And so this does not enlarge the variance that the nonconformance that is there, but allows them to have continue on and cleans up the problem that they have with the sign and it being in a disrepair. Now, would you help me out?
Of course, Mr. Farina. My recommendation would be that the motion language to approve be to increase the maximum freestanding sign area within the prohibited vertical dimensions of 4 feet and 10 feet.
Isn't that what I said?
Exactly. I just read between the lines, Mr. Farina.
It's 7:42, I got it, yeah.
Okay. All right. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion? Anybody? Cindy, go ahead, Mr. Brewer.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Hold on a second. So you're just approving the larger square foot in that area? Is what
That's
I
all
understood.
That is all that the variance would be needed for. Because everything up until 4 feet is good, and everything from 120 inches above is good.
But I thought they're allowed the 54 square feet anyways. or
Correct.
52.
That's not what the variance request was, to be able to have sign area in between 4 feet and 10 feet.
They do have sign area in between there already.
Correct, but that is based on Ms. Sayre's calculations of the proposal, is that sign area in between 4 feet and 10 feet is expanding. Hence the reason why the applicant is coming here to expand that nonconformity in between 4 feet and 10 feet. So the variance is essentially just to allow the more square footage in between 4 feet and 10 feet when you're not allowed to have anything in between there.
Okay, can I make an addition to your motion, though? Or at least a discussion on it? Because we do not have previous sign square footage on record
Okay.
as a condition, and not as a condition, but as an exception.
A reason for.
A reason, sorry.
A reason.
A reason, sorry.
It's okay.
Or hardship.
Or hardship, yes.
I accept that. Who made the second? Do you accept that?
Yeah, I accept it.
Okay. All right. Cindy?
You ready?
Yep.
Board Member Burley?
Yes.
Board Member Shemente?
Yes.
Chair Farina?
Yes.
Board Member Goodell?
Yes.
Board Member Menendez? Yes.
Thank you. We appreciate you cleaning up the area and, you know, do something with the mailboxes, would you?
Mr. Farina, would you like to stamp something now that you have?
Yes. Now that I have a stamp, yes.
It's right here.
Yes, I know, but I have to. You want me to stamp this?
Did I miss it?
Sure. Yeah, that works. The applica- Yeah, the application.
Do I have a second one of those? Hold on, I need to give you this.
Do you,
I won't run.
does he need all of, does he need all of them? Or can he-
Do you need all these?
No, wait a
I
second.
think the application would probably be the best thing to stamp.
Okay.
And then if
Wanna
he
give
wants one for our records
He's
and one
gonna
for their
do-
records, that'd be great.
Double-sided, I think, so, hold on.
Yeah. Cindy was saving paper.
Here's the,
But this should go with it. Do I have another application then?
I have all of that in this little packet. I'll just pass it your way. The application is in here.
Lauren, there's the application for plan examination and the zoning application. Do you want?
Just the zoning one, just the.
And then that rendering of the finished product, the picture?
Oh, it's, okay, those are to me in one packet, so
I'm sorry?
I think I have those like stapled as in a packet, but
I don't know.
I think either.
So you don't need these?
I need a copy of this. This is Appeal 23-05, right?
Yep, 23-05.
It's not on the application.
Apologies.
Okay. Oh, man. Yeah.
We thought it was self-sticking, self-stamping.
It is. I don't know what to do with this. Do I stamp this too?
Exactly what he needs to stamp, or?
I stamp this.
I think those go together. I don't think you need to stamp the separate sheet if
Okay.
you wanna.
But, okay.
We need 2 copies, correct? One for,
Yeah,
one for admin.
yeah, let's stamp one for administrative and we can file it.
You done yet?
I'm done.
Got it done yet? All righty.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
I will bring copies of the applications in the future, Chair Farina.
Thank you.
There wasn't anyone here, so it's fine. It was noted for the record.
Okay. Do you need this anymore?
When you do it on here, you can't really see.
Yeah. You're writing through writing.
Okay. Thank you for all your help. Appreciate it. Okay, new business, election of officers. Okay, Melissa, you want to keep track of this for us?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I think everyone probably knows the drill, but if you'd like me to give kind of a little overview, I'd be happy to do that, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So, as Ms. Grenia's memo indicated to the board, there is a chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary that need to be acted upon this evening. Let me see if I have the order of that. Ms. Grenia, do you know off the top of your head? The order of,
How they elect them?
yeah,
They just do the chair, the vice chair, the secretary.
that's what I thought.
Yep, absolutely. Chairs first and then,
So we will do the chairperson first. We can make a nomination if that individual accepts the nomination, and there are no other nominations for that position. That individual would be nominated by acclamation. So we can start with chairperson.
Okay. You have a light on?
I would like to nominate Mr. Farina for chair.
I accept. Are there any other nominations? Do we need to close nominations?
You don't need to close them, but, and then you.
Okay. All right, Vice Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mr. Burley.
I accept.
Anybody, any other nominations for Vice Chairman? Okay. Nominations are closed. Secretary.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you,
I'd like to nominate Ms. Mendez for
I-
secretary.
I will accept.
anybody else want to be secretary? Okay,
I do have a question, though.
yes.
If the chairperson isn't there and the vice chairman is not there, who runs the meeting?
Currently, that means you don't have a quorum, Mr. Burley.
With 7.
Thank you. But when there is a full board, when there is a full board,
Yes.
I know how that works.
yeah.
Someone, the clerk or the secretary at this point, at least this is how I've seen it done before, would call the meeting to order, and then someone would nominate someone to run the meeting. And then if there was a support and a vote, then they move forward with that. There you go. I only know that 'cause I've had to do it.
Back at you.
Okay.
Do we need to do an oral vote on every single one of those?
I don't think so. You mean like.
I think it's just by acclamation.
We were told the last time for the planning commission that if there was nothing else,
That's
Yeah.
what I thought too. I just want to make sure that the record was clear, so.
Okay, the next item I put on there was discussion of the master plan. And this became very evident to me with our last planning commission meeting that the master plan is very important to what we do as well as what the planning commission does. And I'd like to, do all of you have a copy of the master plan?
No, I've emailed for one, but I haven't
Goodell, I sent you one via email the other day.
gotten it.
Okay, I did send it to you, though.
Yeah, no, I haven't received it.
Okay. Joe, you got one? Okay,
I'll send it again.
So what's date, 2021?
Right.
I'll have to look and see what date my copy is.
I
March
think it was
31st.
approved July 8th at the July 8th city council meeting. I believe Mr. Urbiel sent that to me.
It's dated 2021 is the most current.
I have, mine is dated March 31st, 2021, and it says draft.
That's the current one.
That is the current.
Okay.
Yeah, master plan.
Okay, and I think it's important that we all are aware of the zoning and where the planning commission spent a year figuring out where to go with the city, and it's important. And I think it's important for us, the planning commission, to pay attention to it, and the city council to pay attention to it. And so I'd like to make sure that everybody on the boards has a copy of the master plan, and the city council. You know, so that would be my request. Okay. Monthly report, Lauren.
So I'll actually, for the first one, I'll defer to Ms. Erickson on status of Hockey Land.
Ah, okay.
I guess I don't even need a script at this point. I don't need any reference documents. So the city was comfortable with extending the temporary certificate of occupancy for another 30 days. There was significant progress made since the last time I think I reported to the ZBA back in November, I think was probably the last time we discussed it. There are a few minor outstanding items, but there has been significant progress made. And I do believe that they will likely be on the Planning Commission's agenda in the upcoming months to look for a special approval land use modification of the conditions.
Special land use?
The modification of the special land use that they received for a drive-through back in 21, I believe.
Right, but I thought that was modified after that.
The site plan was modified, the site plan conditions were, but the special land use was not, because we need to have a public hearing and notice and things of that nature, and just based on the timing for that last meeting in October, we wouldn't have complied with the act, so.
Can you tell me what they got done and what is left to do?
Sure. So we have 2 engineering documents that were reviewed by the city engineer that need a little bit of revising, and thereafter approved by the city engineer. And then our office is taking a look at the cross-access easement and shared parking with the former Lions Club parcel. And I think that's it, document-wise, and then obviously modifying the SALU conditions.
Ms. Menendez.
Did they ever sign the waiver?
The hold harmless?
I'm sorry, yes.
The hold harmless, yes. Yep, we have a copy of the executed hold
And do we
harmless.
have any other parking agreements other than the shared access with Lions?
With the,
Secured anything else?
so with the big boy parcel, that was required under the site plan, that we have that, the cross-access for that. And then the other one is with the former Lions Club parcel.
Okay, and what about the school? I thought that was a,
Those were removed as part of their site plan
oh, okay,
with the specific entities.
okay.
It was, I think, formerly Meyer, Total Soccer, former Lions Club parcel,
So soccer's removed?
drawing a blank on the fourth.
School's removed,
And Meyer.
and Meyer.
No, listen, I asked you a question the last meeting that we had here. the variance that was given to them by the ZBA
Correct.
required them to have those parking agreements in place.
But not with specific entities. So, yes. So those were part of the variance in terms of just having general, if I can remember correctly. I know that I wrote a long memo, but I don't have that with me today.
I do,
Oh, perfect.
if I can find it in here.
That did change, the way it started to the way the motion was made, it did change on that day.
Back in 2019? Or, you're talking about the ZBA variance?
Yeah. It was a very long meeting.
I think it was before I was even an attorney, so.
Oh, shit, must be my other book. No, I'm sorry, I do not have it. Well, Mark would spank me for that.
He's not here.
Oh, here. That's the one you're talking
I had like an 8-page legal memo.
about? Yes, I do.
What's the date on this one, Alyssa?
On this?
Yeah.
This is something that I sent to Nova.
Was that the
That's
last one?
Renee?
I can look at my email if you need a specific answer.
I'm just wondering if there were specific entities in the original.
I do not believe that there were any specific entities in the original ZBA action, which is the reason why the applicant did not have to come back before the ZBA, was our office's conclusion when putting all of the records together.
Okay, good. All right, Ms. Sayer.
So I do have, I guess, a couple corrections because this went out as they happened. So 3100 Gross Spec Highway, it got approved for the special land use, but they did pull out of that. They withdrew. But the 32660 Utica, this board granted them a variance and they got final site plan approval. They are at the point where they're can be applying for building permits now.
That's the car wash.
That is the car wash. Yep. I don't believe they have yet. They've got some engineering things to work out, but they can work that out while they,
There was some legal action going on some signage?
there's, for the car wash,
No. For a liquor store?
for Smokey Joe and Sal's.
If that's the one.
Yeah, I believe they've been issued tickets at this point by enforcement. I don't think there's anything new on those, though.
I think they went to court, but,
Okay.
okay. Roseanne?
What business is 3100 Grossbeck?
It's the Liberty Tax Building on the corner.
Okay,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Melissa? You want to say something?
If the ZBA is inquiring about Smokey Joe's, yes, they were cited, and yes, there was a court date last week. I had a chance to talk to their attorney when I was there, and we adjourned the pretrial so the defendant could get some options for compliance, and hopefully move towards compliance in the near future.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the update.
And then the last one is the Sheets conditional rezoning, which Planning Commission recommended denial, but I believe they will be still moving forward to City Council.
It's the way it should be. Okay, action items update, you did that. Planning Commission. Well, it was the most people I have seen here for the Planning Commission ever. It was packed in here and packed outside, and the meeting went till about 11:30. I guess I got home at 11:30. And Sheets wanted to buy, or has,
They want to lease.
lease the bank building property and put in a restaurant, gas station, liquor store combination, which is their format for their chain. And it was a nice building, but the planning commission heard what they had to say and voted not to recommend it to city council because we did not feel that it fit with the master plan, which calls for a downtown authority, and increased walkability, and that type of thing. And that it would be a detriment. One of the things for special land uses has to be, you're offering something to the area that is not available. Well, there are 2 other gas stations and another restaurant and a supermarket available. In
And a
that
liquor
city.
store.
And a liquor store, right. So, 2 liquor stores, actually, but, so we just, the planning commission did not feel it was a good fit for the city and to get in line with the master plan. So they did not recommend it to city council. Now, it is city council's right to hear it and make their own choice. They are the ones that have to do that. But we'll see how that all shakes out. I know that Sheets wanted to move into Rochester Hills, and they have withdrawn from their thing there. That was in the papers. And there's another one in Roseville that they want to put in, I think. And, so they're looking to expand quite rapidly into this area. So that's all we took up at that meeting. All right. Is there any questions about that? Okay. Public to be heard. Is there any public to be heard? No public to be heard. We'll bring it back up to the board. Mr. Goodell, you have anything? How do you blend it in? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
I just got my book for a month, so
All right.
dropped it off.
Good. We're gonna work on getting those to new members. I mean, that's, something we have to do when they get on board. And now, have we come up with a date for the training yet, Cindy?
No, we haven't.
Okay. All right, Joseph, you have anything? Okay. Ms. Menendez?
I'm all good, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Burnett, Mr. Vice Chairman? Cindy, you have anything?
Not a gosh darn thing, thanks.
Okay. Ms. Erickson?
Nothing tonight.
Ms. Sayer?
Are we planning on having a February meeting on February 1st, regularly scheduled?
Do we have business?
Ms. Greenia?
So we did have, did you remember the young lady that was at the public hearing, short hair?
Yes.
So she did send her application in today. And she does meet the requirements of living in the city. I believe she's been here actually since 2015. So we could put her on the agenda to interview, and then,
And we also review the annual planning zoning report that I forwarded to everyone for their comments as well.
Yeah. All righty, then we'll do it.
Okay.
You're the
Thank you.
boss.
And then I guess that's just a reminder that if anyone has any comments on the annual planning and zoning report, and the 2024 work plan, to send those in before the 24th.
I think it's interesting that you put down there, on the, I gave you my copy with my markups, the sidewalk expansion, and I don't think the city has done anything with the sidewalk, to help the walkability, which is part of what the master plan is.
Yeah, I would say it's not unusual to see a lot of goals roll over from year to year. Unfortunate, but not unusual.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, if that's it, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Goodall, second that motion, would you please?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.